Hello, this is a workshop designed for elementary school teachers, and we will be discussing the executive functioning support and sensory-friendly environments for neurodiverse students. The goals of this workshop are to understand what it means to support children's executive functioning and sensory experiences, learn about universal design for learning and how to apply it in the classroom, and see examples of these things in action and what we can do about it. Here's the definition of what is happening. Neurodiversity in a school setting. This is a term that explains a range of differences in brain function and behavior, and it recognizes that these differences are a natural aspect of human behavior, not a deficit. Some examples of this are autism, ADHD, dyslexia, Tourette's, or OCD. Some terms are linked here, and you can go through and find definitions for executive functioning, ADHD, Tourette syndrome, OCD, autism, and sensory processing difficulties. These are good terms to know. As a person in an elementary classroom, as you may come across these in your work, and it is important that we accommodate all different brains and ways of learning. There are a number of current issues when thinking about this diversity component. There are things such as social challenges. A quote describes difficulties making and maintaining friendships due to challenges reading social cues and entering play situations. Creating an accepting classroom environment and providing social scaffolding outside the classroom can help address these challenges. By providing students with the tools to be successful in and outside of the classroom, it can create a more inclusive environment for everyone. So recognizing that students who are neurodivergent may struggle socially in the classroom, and it is our job as the adults in the room and as the teachers to help foster that inclusive environment. There's also stereotypes. Many neurodivergent individuals are passed over for work opportunities or schooling opportunities because of a stereotype that they're lazy or because certain accommodations are required. Not only is this idea harmful and very unfair, it also ignores the major benefits of neurodivergent people and what they can bring to a work environment. Another quote explains research shows that some conditions like autism, dyslexia can actually enhance an individual's ability to recognize patterns, retain information, and excel in certain subjects. So it's important to disregard a lot of stereotypes and really show up and address each student at the state that they are and where they are. So talking about universal design for learning, this is a super important concept when thinking about working with students. Every brain and body is unique, and this variability should be taken into account when working in classrooms with students of all backgrounds. If an environment is accessible and easy to use, then everyone benefits from the design. When thinking about an elementary school classroom, here I have a photo of a kindergarten classroom, it's important to think about different aspects of accessibility. Can all students access their workspace and common areas in the room? Are there lights, designs, sounds in the classroom that could lead to overstimulation or somehow disrupt learning? Is there a safe, private, or quiet place for students to regulate and take a sensory break? There's so many other things that we can also think about in a classroom. Really, just consider, can all students have the same and equitable experience when working in the classroom? Are we accommodating the differences that each individual may come into this classroom with? Continuing on, we have the classroom design. So how we set up our classroom leads our students to success. One way that classrooms can be set up is thinking about self-directed learning. This can mean allowing the curriculum to be flexible and students can work in ways that are best for them. It includes adapting to different learning styles instead of strict standardized testing or ways of learning. Students can demonstrate through, instead of just having a spoken presentation, you could offer the students to record a video at home or submitting the work in another way. It's really just adapting the work so that anybody can do it no matter their differences or accommodations. Also, executive functioning support. Many neurodivergent individuals, such as those with ADHD, can struggle with tasks related to executive functioning. This involves planning, organizing, prioritizing, initiating tasks, and these are often very difficult for neurodivergent students. Teachers can help support them by making sure that the classroom has things such as checklists, dedicated binders, reward systems, timers, planners, calendars, and other ways that can really help these students with their executive functioning support. Another idea is a sensory station. I have seen this in my own experience in some classrooms, and it can be really helpful. It's an area where students can escape and regulate. Ideally, it's somewhat separate from the action of the classroom and has sensory toys, books, or other age appropriate items that they can use to regulate themselves. It allows students to take responsibility and practice identifying when they are dysregulated or when they need a break from the classroom. And it gives them a tool and a way to regulate by themselves. This is very helpful, especially for younger students. When they just need to get up and move and their body is telling them that they need to do something, and it's helpful to have the space where they can regulate themselves and the teacher can continue focusing on the class. And I think this can be very helpful for neurodivergent students in particular. One example of this advocacy in action is the SEED program in New York. This is Sensory Exploitation, Education, and Discover. It's a special education family resource and that the New York City school system has implemented in a handful of schools. It's a program that is enrichment-based, and it's a sensory movement program. It's designed for students who require sensory needs and that impact their school performance. It's important to recognize that every child has a unique brain and unique experience that can help us in education, to recognize that that every student has diverse needs, and SEED is really set up to target these students with diverse needs. Creating programs that are focused on providing support to students who need it is vital in creating a more diverse, equitable, and inclusive education system overall. Really, the function of this organization is to provide students with sensory experiences that allow them to prepare their body and mind for learning. They use a sensory-based and social-emotional learning curriculum and utilize calming and alerting activities based on the need of students. So this is very important and can be implemented in more schools than it is just now. And the research shows that even one training session or program of something of the sort can help people feel more prepared to have these conversations. If we make this something that is normalized and that is common in schools, it will be easier to talk about and to implement in our classrooms on a regular basis. Some key takeaways from this workshop. I have a quote here that says, neurodivergent kids process information differently from their peers, which can mean language, sensory stimuli, emotions, and how they're able to adapt to change. So if a kid is acting out, it probably means they're struggling in one or more of these fundamental areas. I think this was an important quote to bring out because there is a tendency when teachers are overwhelmed in classrooms to label students in a certain way. And I think this happens more often with neurodivergent students, saying that they're acting out or that they're being disruptive. And in reality, it is important for all of the people in the classroom, the students, the teachers, everybody, to be aware that there are differences in the way that we interact with the world through language, sensory, emotions, everything, and that we should have a lot of empathy and understanding and have an open mind to working with people whose brains may function differently than our own and being accepting of these differences. So my bullet points say, key takeaways. All brains are different. This is true. Supporting and accommodating one student makes a better environment for all students. This is what we said before with universal design for learning. If we can accommodate one person, it could potentially benefit a majority of people. Providing students with support, sensory, organizational, or social, that they need sets them up for success in future learning in life. And overall, diversity, equity, and inclusion are key components of a well-functioning, happy, and supportive classroom. So here are some resources for further learning. I have a link to the National Disability Authority, which explains different things about neurodiversity and how it's important to celebrate diversity. This link here is a video about how schools can support neurodiverse students and what accommodations may be helpful for them. And then this is also a very helpful YouTube video that explains what sensory overload is and some helpful tips. This video is especially directed towards working with children, and it can be very helpful in understanding what sensory overload may look like and how we can adapt our classrooms and our lives to help support students who may be experiencing it. And now I'll leave some time for questions if there are any. You can comment them below. And here are my references. All right, thank you so much. I hope you learned more about supporting neurodiversity in elementary schools. And thank you for listening.